Few coaches in college football history, or really sports for that matter, can rival Steve Spurrier's gift of gab. He's made a ton of enemies, dissing whoever he feels when he gets an opponent in his crosshairs. But when it came to the University of Georgia, Spurrier had a unique disdain for the Dawgs dating back to the 60s. The hatred ran both ways, as folks in Athens, Georgia despised Spurrier, sparking a nearly half-a-century-long beef. This video is brought to you by your local Toyota dealers and the Toyota Tacoma. Spurrier has always been a winner. As a multi-sport athlete in high school, he chose to play football, earning a scholarship at the University of Florida. During his college career as a starter, Spurrier was a prolific passer who often shredded opposing defenses. However, one team that always gave him and the Gators trouble was Florida's arch-rival Georgia. In his sophomore season of '64, the Dawgs upset the Gators in a game that journalists said was the worst Spurrier had looked in a Florida uniform. He got his lick back the following year with a heroic late-game winning TD, and the 1966 season looked to be a fairy tale year for Spurrier and the Gators. Florida went undefeated through their first 7 games as Spurrier delivered masterclass performances, playing his way into Heisman contention. As the Gators eyed their yearly matchup with the Dawgs, a win would have inched them closer to securing the school's first ever conference championship. Except, UGA was the nightmare to UF's dream season. The Dawgs put off a tremendous upset featuring a vicious pass rush that forced Spurrier into early throws, tossing 2 interceptions. Post-game, Spurrier credited Georgia's pass rush and secondary for not giving up anything easy, but Georgia fans weren't as complimentary to the Florida QB. As Spurrier walked off the field after the loss, elated Georgia fans let the Heisman hopeful hear it as he made his way to the locker room. I gotta admit, some quarterback is probably one of the weakest disses you can drop, but it was the 60s and some variation of golly gee, this guy stinks was more than likely a banger at the time. Anyway, Spurrier wound up winning the Heisman that season, but the trophy didn't seem to fulfill him. Championships were the gold standard for Spurrier, and not securing a conference title during his collegiate career haunted him, all thanks to Georgia. The loss to UGA in his Heisman season clearly took a toll on Spurrier, as he could easily recount the scene decades later, vowing he would ultimately get his revenge against the Dawgs as a coach. But where could he exact his payback? Wouldn't it be crazy if he worked his way through the coaching ranks, taking assistant positions at various schools and head coaching a defunct football league before landing his dream job at his alma mater? Oh, I'm getting word that's exactly what happened. In late 1989, after spending 3 seasons leading Duke University, Spurrier accepted an offer to be the head ball coach at Florida. Spurrier inherited a team under NCAA investigation, and amongst a ton of changes he announced during his introductory press conference, he stressed early on the need to beat Georgia. Before Spurrier's arrival, the Dawgs had dominated the series, leading former UF coaches and fans to push for a home-and-home for the rivalry game instead of its neutral field setting in Jacksonville. Spurrier thought the idea was cowardly. He saw the advantage of the Gators playing in their backyard state of Florida, while Georgia had a much longer travel time. He believed UF could gain control of the series, and if there was any place to avenge his long grudge with the Dawgs, taking control of the Gators as head coach couldn't be more perfect. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, which Spurrier couldn't have executed any better as he went on to own Georgia. In his 12-year tenure coaching UF, Spurrier led the Gators to victory 11 times over UGA. 11! It got so ugly for the Dawgs that the roles reversed and UGA fans were clamoring for a home-and-home series, which Spurrier wasn't hearing any of. That many losses were sure to do damage to the psyche of a fan base, but some L's stung more than others as Spurrier constantly twisted the knife. In just his second year in Gainesville, Spurrier and the Gators clinched their first SEC title in school history, thanks in part to a thrashing over Georgia. Post-game, Spurrier relished in the moment, calling out media members for seemingly extending Georgia and their players' excuses when they always seemed to fall apart. If dog-walking Georgia through Spurrier's first 2 matchups as head coach didn't hurt enough, the '92 season presented more pain for the squad in red and black. Strapped with Heisman hopeful running back Garrison Hurst, UGA entered the matchup as favorites with just one loss in hopes of making the SEC's inaugural championship game with a win. The Dogs hadn't secured a conference title in 10 years, and with Florida experiencing a down year, Spurrier and the Gators still pulled off the upset, killing both Georgia's title dreams and Garrison's shot at securing the Heisman. The Gators' defense shutting down Hurst was a pivotal part of the matchup. After the game, Florida players celebrated the achievement by striking Heisman poses, mocking Hurst in front of an end zone full of not-so-happy Dawgs fans. Look, taunting is a part of the game, and especially in a big rivalry like that, it's almost encouraged, but UGA players weren't rocking with it. Georgia linebacker Mitch Davis didn't like the showboating, but wasn't surprised, as he believed it reflected Spurrier's disrespect towards UGA. How could Florida players show class if their head coach didn't have any? Post-game, Spurrier wasn't happy about his players' actions and assured it wouldn't happen again. While taunting is where Spurrier drew his line in the sand, purposely running up the score and hanging a 50 ball on the Dogs in front of their home fans seemed to be fair game. With the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville undergoing renovations during the mid-90s, the rivalry made its way to the campuses of both schools, and during the '95 showdown in Athens, the Gators delivered an epic beatdown between the hedges. Running up the score wasn't so much an accusation as the head ball coach confirmed it post-game, admitting he wanted to be the first team to score 50 in Athens. I mean, up 30+ late in the fourth quarter, the dude called 5 straight pass plays with backups in, including a dang flea flicker on a drive that ended with yet another touchdown. Just brutal. It's like Spurrier had some sort of mind control over Georgia, and it didn't help he dropped wisecracks in the process, like calling UGA head coach Ray Goff, Ray Goof. Luckily for Dogs fans, his terror at Florida couldn't last forever. After getting yet another win over Georgia in 2001, Spurrier abruptly resigned at the end of the season. His resignation shocked Florida and the entire college football world, but Spurrier just felt that 12 years at a major university in the SEC was enough. Or maybe he just wanted a different challenge. As Spurrier joined the NFL, Georgia fans rejoiced as the old ball coach was not only gone from Florida, but the SEC entirely. It was like a huge weight had been lifted, finally escaping Spurrier's clutches. Oh, come on! South Carolina wasn't nearly as significant a rival to Georgia as Florida, but they shared the same division as the Dogs, ensuring Spurrier faced off against the program he tormented the most. It was strange to see Spurrier decked in Gamecocks gear, and when journalists asked if he felt like a traitor to Florida, Spurrier quickly shot back that it's not like he took a job at Georgia. He might have been rocking different colors, but the beef was still clearly cooking. When he joined South Carolina, Spurrier faced an uphill battle challenged with transforming a historically mid Gamecocks program into an SEC powerhouse. The program was at a disadvantage due to its limited recruiting base within the state, but more than anything, they were simply outmatched by the other powers in their division: Tennessee, Florida, and Georgia. In his first 2 years at the helm, Georgia seemed to finally figure him out, leading journalists to believe his dark magic had worn off. Entering the '07 season, analysts expected Georgia to keep getting their licks in as South Carolina strolled into Athens as heavy underdogs. Except, it appeared that another pin in Spurrier's UGA voodoo doll just hadn't been fully punctured yet. Spurrier and the Gamecocks pulled off an ugly 16-12 upset on the road, where Dogs fans' animosity towards Spurrier were more than intact as they rained down boos on the old ball coach. The loss was just more added fuel to the fire of rage for UGA fans. When Spurrier ultimately called it quits in the middle of the 2015 season, he didn't have as much success in his time with the Gamecocks, but he finished his career as the coach with the most wins against Georgia, which he gladly flaunted. It was a huge personal milestone for Spurrier, but other major achievements in his legacy also seemed to come at Georgia's expense. In the 2012 matchup where the Gamecocks smoked the Dogs in the top 10 showdown, Spurrier captured his 250th career win and couldn't be happier that it came against the Bulldogs. Despite being the coach of South Carolina, The win felt special to Spurrier because of the damage Georgia had inflicted on his alma mater. And that's what this always was, a beef rooted in school pride. Georgia-Florida is one of the great historic and few neutral field traditions left in college football, as fans descend upon Jacksonville in a game dubbed the world's largest cocktail party. The tradition soured for Spurrier during his Heisman-winning year when the Dawgs kept him away from winning a title, but he promised he would ultimately have the last laugh. Sadly for Georgia fans, he did a lot of chuckling. In his retirement, Spurrier says he doesn't feel the heat as much from UGA fans and even admitted some of his old digs at the program were corny, but when given even a small amount of ammo, Georgia's faithful were still ready to pounce. In an August 2025 episode of another duly noted podcast, while discussing the impact of championship-winning quarterbacks, Spurrier took a slight jab at two-time championship-winning UGA quarterback Stetson Bennett, saying he didn't have to be anything special for Georgia to win their rings. Georgia fans and media members took offense and later pressed Spurrier, asking him to clarify his opinion. The head ball coach went on to call Stetson the best quarterback in Georgia history, but still somewhat doubled down on him not being that special. Hey, at least he gave out some credit. It'll never be a loving relationship, but the further away Spurrier is removed from his days of coaching the Gators, he feels comfortable at least complimenting the Dawgs. As Georgia is becoming one of the powerhouses in the sport, regaining their control over Florida in the series, there's less reason to look back to the past of misery where Spurrier had a stranglehold over the program. But at its boiling point, there was no love lost between the two. One loss as a player turned into a decades-long revenge scheme. That's what you call some good old dry-aged beef. Hello! Thanks for watching this episode of Beef History. If you enjoyed this, we have plenty of more fire content right here on YouTube. But if you're looking for a little something extra special, subscribe to our Patreon. There you can find tons of goodies like exclusive early releases of episodes, extended releases, podcastings, and so much more.